entirely sure if I'm going to put in the willow or not. But these guys, as you can see, they're in the shade right now, but they'll come back. What was that? Okay, I think that was a woodpecker. I'm a little nervous because sometimes we've had mountain lion sightings over here, and it would be extraordinarily rare for one to show up midday, but you never know. Good morning. How are you? Well, it's Friday again, and I am out here with my painting friends. We are at Pineridge Natural Area. This is one of the first designated natural areas. Back in the 70s, the people in our town conceived of an idea of areas, conserved for, nature and places to walk and bike, because everything was developing so fast here on the Front Range. And now we have over 50 designated areas called natural areas where we can just, hang out and enjoy nature. And it's just absolutely fantastic. But I haven't been to this particular natural area in several years. I think one of the main reasons we haven't painted here a lot is historically it didn't have as much tree cover, and there's lots of mosquitoes and rattlesnakes. But I don't think we're going to have too much of a problem today. It looks pretty nice. So come on, let's go. And here's one of the dams to Horsetooth Reservoir, where all our water is being kept. And this is Dixon Reservoir below it. And they've built this really nice wooden walkway. Ooh, but watch where you're going. And at the moment, there's hardly any wind. Look at these still reflections. Aren't they beautiful? And check it out. Here's another wiki up. Little shelter. Could be older, it could be more recent. Nope. Nothing in there but mosquitoes. Well, it's really pretty here in the undergrowth, but just a little too buggy for my taste, and a lot of green. Let's see what's over here. And as you can see, the spot I was thinking of painting is kind of dried up, which is unusual for this time of the year. And what's cool about this muddy area is you can see all the kinds of critters that have come through here. That's a western swallowtail. Getting nutrients and minerals here in the mud. It's a behavior called puddling. Squish, squish. And this is getting muddier and muddier as I go. Okay, so now I've been walking around the western side of Dixon Reservoir, and this is kind of a pretty little cut here. Look at these funky clouds, aren't they neat? So now I'm walking a little bit further afield of the reservoir towards the foothills. Look at all the cottonwoods up here. Those are pretty. I bet these folks have a great view up there. And over here, what do you think this is? It's a prairie dog hole. And there's another one. And this is cool, but it's really swampy. Well, after about hiking halfway around the reservoir here, about 1.5 miles, 2 miles, I think I found a scene that I like. Okay, I got my rough drawing put out here of the scene before me. I've moved some things around a little bit. I've moved the far berm over a little, and I'm gonna bend this tree so it'll go this way and kind of keep the eye moving around in a circle. And there was a beautiful cloud bank earlier, and I'm just kind of locked that in my mind, and I'm gonna try to recreate it here. So I got my cobalt blue, and I got my shadow colors there of ultramarine and English red. And I'm going to move this a little bit so it doesn't go too far down. going to put this in the sun. And while that's drying in the grass, I'm going to take this cobalt blue and the shadow colors that I mixed earlier. I got a little bit left over because I was doing a much larger piece than I've been doing for a while here. And it's always better to overmix than undermix, but now I can use this and turn it into these distant greens here. And I'm going to make these even more, less saturated than these here to push it further back. So I'll take this and a bit of raw sienna, Winsor Newton's raw sienna, just because it's got a little bit more of a green tone to it when I mix it with the blue, but just a little. And a little bit of Holbein's Aureolin. And then I'll take this earthy, shadowy color and I'll add a bit of sap green and maybe a little bit of perylene green mixed in with a little bit more of the raw sienna. And that'll make those darker trees in the very far distance there. So I've let this dry a little bit, and as you can see, it's starting to come back to me why I haven't used this block in a while. See how it's a little irregular and blotchy up here? And sometimes that just happens with a batch of paper. If it's really consistent and it happens throughout the batch, I've actually been known to write Arches or Arche in France, and they've actually sent me a whole new block, but don't think it's going to be that extreme with this one. I'm not going to worry about this too much because I'm going to have trees and things growing behind it. So I've mixed up my colors, and let us commence with the hillock behind it here, or hummock. I don't know what you would call that. I'm going to tilt this back a little bit for a second. Negative painting here. And all the ruckus going on in the background with the birds, it sounds like it's a whole family of Bullock's orioles. So I can get one up close. They're pretty shy. Put this in the sun to dry again. And as you can see, I've lost that perfect reflection that I had going earlier, so I'm going to try to remember what that looked like and see how it goes. Just make it a little, the light's a little darker and the dark's a little lighter. And uh-oh, I forgot to mix the blues for the water. Ah, okay. Don't panic. Don't panic. Just mix up some cobalt, a little bit of ultramarine, a little teeny bit of English red, real quick. More blue. I'm dry brushing this in a little bit. Let's see if that works. Panic. The cloud is here, so we're gonna, oops. Too much on my brush there. And turn it on its side so it can bleed downwards a bit. Oops, once again, too much pigment. Too much water now. Okay. Good enough. What I might end up doing is, once this dries a little, is watering it down, and because that looks really rough. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it now. I'm impatient. I don't trust it. It's very rough paper. This is actually much rougher paper than I normally work with as well, and it's been a while since I've used it. So let's do this here real quick. Oh yeah, it's still pretty rough, amazingly. Okay, I'm just gonna go back over that tree there, so we're not gonna worry about that. But I really want a still feeling, not a choppy, almost oceanic thing that was going on there a second ago. So I just got to get rid of those little bumps. They were too bumpy. They were cool, but they just weren't fitting the mood for what I'm going for here, which is just quiet, still contemplation of the water. That's a little better. Now, for those of you in really wet climates, I don't know if that's advisable to do what I just did, because it will take a while to dry. Once again, put that in the sun. And the breeze is really picking up all of a sudden, so I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to stay in this spot. We'll see. So I'm going to take this and mirror it on the other side here. Let's see here. Sometimes the best way to do that is to put it on its side there so you can see what you're doing. Doesn't have to be perfect, just enough. Hi. Take a flat. Paint in it just a little bit. Just a little. It dries because it's already drying. Do the same in here. It's really dry. That's all right. Okay. And just a little bit of the dark stuff there reflected. Let's see what I'm going to do here just a sec. Because now I'm going to take all of this here, well, once it dries, and I'm going to make it a little bit more warm in tone and color. Go back over it one more time. Yeah, even though this is pretty rudimentary, it's starting to shape up like reflections on the water. And now I just need to put in the tree here, and I'll be at a good stopping point because it's lunch 30. So, got this all set up here. But as you can see, I don't know if you can see it in the distance, those trees have a little bit more of a warm tone to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this mix that I put on and I'm going to put over the whole thing. And make sure it's a little thin. Don't want to, it's just a glaze over it, right? Okay. Hold our breath and 3, 2, 1. Make sure it's nice and thin. I just got buzzed by a hummingbird. Alright. And then I can go back in and just very lightly lift out a little bit like that. Just to see how that makes it all blend together. Hopefully. Yeah. Much better. Now we'll do the same below. I'm actually going to flip it over just to keep it even in the mirror world, upside down. And the wind's picking up. Yay! Okay. And I'm leaving this white line here for the shoreline. Watery looking on that edge, even though it was a little even actually of a tighter edge. I want people to know this is still water. Okay. So for the trees, which are little baby, well not baby, but teenager cottonwoods. And I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to put in the willow or not. The pre-afternoon clouds are starting to build up. Isn't that cool looking? I would like to actually paint that. But I'm going to have to pack up here fairly soon because I have a luncheon date. And so I'm going to start to put in the trees here. And as you can see, I've also lost my light because it's kind of turning on and off like it does towards the afternoon. And so I'll put in the tree here and here, and then I will take the rest to the studio. For the cottonwoods, I tend to mix up kind of an earthy mix of burnt sienna, a little bit of burnt umber, burnt sienna, burnt umber, and sometimes a touch of hematite burnt scarlet for a bit of texture, but these are pretty far off, so I don't think I'm gonna do that much of that. And a little bit of ultramarine blue in the mix, just to gray it up, like that. And we will start. Let's see here if I can do this with one hand. Nope. Just a sec. Okay, now that's recording. Yeah. I tend to fade that out at the bottom. And go down here where the shadow will be. And sometimes I exaggerate the bends and crooks in the tree just a little for interest. Like this guy here. And the wind's kicking up. fatter. Okay. I think I'm gonna put a little knob right here. And then what I gotta do is get my trusty ink brush, my Japanese ink brush. Put that in there because it's good and scruffy. It takes a number of years for your brush to get to the proper level of scruff. We have really rough paper, that helps too. It kind of crisscrosses a little bit. Okay. Now he'll put in his friend on the other side, this over here. Need to mix up more bark. Ah, I'm getting eaten by mosquitoes. Not good. Okay, time to get in a little skinny brush for some of these skinnier branches. Okay. And cottonwood branches are so chaotic in their growth structure. There is an underlying pattern. And I'm not making it really strong on here because I'm going to put in a lot of leaves later. Ah, I'm getting bitten. They're getting ferocious. And I just reapplied my bug spray. It's a natural bug spray, so it doesn't last super long. time is it? My watch isn't working. Okay. So don't worry, I'm not gonna leave these trays dead, but I'm just gonna put in the foreground layer, the first layer, and go in for lunch. Now, since this is the closest to me, I'll make it the most greeny with areolin and some sap green and a little bit of this brown to tone it down just a bit. Okay. These birds are so cute. They're all beep, 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 beep. Alright, get my ink brush again. Put in some grassy things. I'm debating whether or not to put in those cattails. We'll see. We're just putting in the grass layer at the moment. The under layer of grass. And it's already drying. See that hard line? I was hoping that would not happen. Alright. Go back in with the brush. Break that up. A little bit of moisture. Hopefully we can save that. Yeah, it's so dry. Don't want to rush it, but I am going to put in some preliminary leaves. Oh, those little birds. They are so upset. They're not getting fed by mommy and daddy. You see how I'm twisting my brush from side to side. It took me a while to figure out how to do that.